live and direct on YouTube again. Boom. Yes. With Arthur Cristian from Australia. How are you, Arthur?
Very good, Yannick.
Good. Perfect. Again, episode 298 of the TruMon Show. Tonight, we're going to keep going with our reflection, our rezoning. I like to call it the rezoning about co-creation, because I don't think we were completely done with elaborating our thoughts on the matter of co-creation. First of all, it's a big thing. It's not a small thing to elaborate on. So yeah. So I would like you, maybe Arthur, if you can keep going on what you were saying the last time, and maybe because, like I was saying to Ivar, I was like, I know it's not easy the type of question, very easy to answer, but that's it. There's got to be something that we can all not agree on, but seize, like not something too far-fetched to explain, like something very basic that we can grasp, all of us, about the topic of co-creation, because we're talking about the trees, the mountain, the river, the whole earth, everything. So if we are the only beings here and always been the only being, how do we explain the presence of such magnificent thing like trees and rivers and mountains and everything, all the minerals on earth, like where gold come from, like all this? Because suddenly, I always been told that most minerals, precious minerals, especially on earth, comes from outer space. Like I was told that it comes from outer space and land on earth after millions of years, and it's been dug out. So now where all those minerals, super precious minerals, come from? And so yeah, all these questions that I have, that I don't expect you to really give me a clear answer on everything, because yes, you have more experience than me, but you have went through the same thing about in life as me. So I'm not going to be too judgmental on the answer you're going to give me. Like it's up to us also to make a big picture for ourselves. Like we have to see it. Like I don't want you to give me your eyes, like or your thoughts, or like we should be able, with what you give tonight, to after maybe put our own thoughts together, and then make sense of all this if we can. So
Yeah,
it's up to you, Arthur.
it's we in this series of the duality, the cult of hoops, we've been touching on the difference between sense and non-sense. Now, our senses is where we are experiencing whatever we are observing of reality and getting all the information directly through that experience with what it is, whether you're talking mountains, rocks, valleys. That's the only way you ever know the truth. Now, what's happened to all of us, that's been removed and been replaced by other people offering us storytelling about the minerals, in this case, outer space, meaning other things out there, some other powerful something that has somehow deposited minerals amongst the trees and the birds and everything else. So unless we experience directly and gain the information directly from what we are observing of reality, we will never know. No one will ever know, regardless of whatever is explained to us. Doesn't matter how much storytelling keeps coming along to explain to us. This includes everything this man has been talking about. All we can do is offer a glimpse into the phenomena of this deception that's put us asleep and kept us how we've kept who we are asleep. But I can't wake you up. I
Exactly.
cannot tell you what your dreams are. I can't tell you anything about your truth because you are unique and original. We are each unique and original, never to be repeated. It's just other people have tried to put a program in us to make us think in a sameness model, so we're inside the boxes of that duality where we play out the game of the hoops that we jump through. So outer space and minerals is, okay, simple. Get the megaphone out and just call out, hello, outer space. Hello, outer space. Please come forward before us right now. I want to talk to you. Is it true that you deposited the minerals here on Earth? Hello, outer space.
Good chance
Hello,
no one answers.
space. Hello, outer space. Look, hello, God. Come and talk to us. Look, unless we have the ability to discern nonsense and sense, we're never going to navigate out. We're never going to get out of this. We'll just be lost with the head spinning inside the cults of the hoops we're jumping of outer space, minerals, and all the explanations that have been told to us. And all those who explained the storytelling to us are acting as outer space because they can't bring forward outer space before us. So if someone says to you, it's something from outer space and the minerals have been brought to Earth, well, okay, are you outer space? Were you the one who did that? And obviously they're not going to be able to prove it because we'll say, well, if that's the case, can you show us how you do that right now? They're not going to be able to do it, right? So then you're going to have to ask them, well, then please bring forward outer space before us so we can talk directly with outer space. We don't want to talk to you. We want to talk directly with outer space. Hello, outer space. Is it true? Now, they can't do it. Now, if they can't bring forward outer space and they keep claiming that outer space and the minerals on Earth was done by outer space is true, well, they're committing fraud because they're now acting as outer space by default, right? There's no difference to the church and the Pope acting as a representative of God and God's word, right? Or aliens from the Galactic Federation or the virgins from Andromeda. It doesn't matter. If anyone makes a claim about anything, we are by default acting by proxy. We're acting as outer space. We're acting as God. We're acting as Santa Claus or Easter Bunny or Tooth Fairy because it's all the same phenomena of this deception. We get lost in the imagining, believing that the storytelling of Superman is true. And so as a kid growing up in the storytelling, we are jumping through the hoops of the scripts of Superman. We're jumping through the hoops of the scripts of outer space and minerals on Earth. And at no time are we actually having a direct sensory experience with the truth. We're just pretending it and putting up the fake facade. It's true. This is real. That's what Mum told me about God and Jesus when I grew up. And the church. And just because I went to a building with a church and everybody there praying as a Greek Orthodox growing up, it's true. But never did I see God there or Jesus or anyone. Just lots of men, brothers and sisters, all playing out this ritual in the cult of the hoops. So there is no answer for anyone about anything of reality, not even this man, because they're not your dreams. Your head is just spinning with scripts and scripts within scripts within scripts. But you are gifted with the ability to sense, because the senses, we don't own the senses, but the senses are all through our being. And it's everywhere. And if we are tuned to the senses, we are accessing the true consciousness of life itself that we are, because we are the one experiencing the truth and living it, right? Hence, the invasion, which explained in other videos, of these Freemasons with the UFOs, unidentified floating object, their ships, bringing their books with them, all their his story, her story, and getting inside those they wanted to conquer, introduce war, whatever, sickness, disease, whatever, to decimate the tribes, bring the children of those tribes forward into the scripts of the storytelling, because they've all been forced to be educated. Even the lost generations, which is often, I reckon now has happened everywhere, because it only takes 60 odd years to disconnect from the true tongue of our ancestors. If we're hijacked and taken away from our parents and all that original tribes and been brought up in an alien world, educated in an alien world, and it's all we know, and if we don't have the discernment to scrutinize what the hell's happened to us, we then grow up and create kids who create kids. And over 60 years, you could have 3 generations of, 20, 25 years apart of kids completely disconnected. And only we know are the scripts in our head, those hoops that we are boxing, the prisons of our brain.
You know what, sir? Hold on. If we are so many beings on Earth, not in an ideal world, in the world that makes sense, okay, we should be able to trust and rely on each other. Like we should be able to like, if my like anyone like in a world that makes sense, we wouldn't be indifferent to each other. Okay, so we would be inquiring also about our thoughts, like, and everything, because we are many beings on Earth and we all experience something different. But if we would be more focused and less distracted, maybe we could put our thoughts together and then have some kind of real truth reality that we could share. You know what I'm saying? Because now, even if I experience something, I say, okay, I went to the edge of the world or whatever I do, you cannot trust me because you haven't seen it and you haven't experimented yourself. You haven't touched it. You haven't. So you just rely on. So why are we so many beings on Earth if we're so useless to each other? Like, how could we make, you know what I'm saying?
Because we're
Like
still trapped we're still trapped in the scripts of the storytelling. And no matter how far we go in trying to explain, it's still another script of storytelling. In this case, alphabet's English language. We keep going to it explain something beyond already what we currently understand, because we do understand. We're under the standing of another man inside our head who's controlling how we are looking at life, because it's their influence over us. So unless we can step outside of that influence, break away completely from anyone telling us how to think and feel about anything, we're not even going to begin to directly experience truth in present sense and live that dream. Because it's only in living the dream of our real lives where we expand as the sun that shines. And in doing that, we're creating the abundance and life and the joy of the real life for others to experience, to sense. So we can't arrive at a destination through thinking in these conditions and collectively awaken and create something that's a breakthrough outside of all of this. Because if we continue operating inside the scripts, we're still inside the book of the Freemasons. No matter how far we go about the conversation of consciousness or the conversation of freedom or the conversation of life itself, whether it's explained through science and the universes and the galaxies and the outer space and the minerals deposited on the earth, we're still in scripts. So for most of us, we are asleep and we don't know where the line is drawn, where the scripts have actually ended. And the truth of our direct sensory experience has already present to us. So we're so lulled and so confused about the depth of the scripting of the storytelling. So we're still like a kamikaze pilot, like the B-52 bombers I talked about earlier. We're still dropping the payloads of the lies upon us because we're still diving as those kamikaze pilots into the lies, thinking we're coming closer to the truth that's explaining to us in a common group, collective. It's just still a cult. We're in the occult still of an explained freedom, of explained consciousness. Whether it doesn't matter whether it's triggered by coronavirus or whether it's triggered by 9/11 or it's triggered by just the commons of just food, water, shelter. So we can sit here and talk and talk and talk, and we can have different people. We can sit and talk and talk and talk. This will never change this phenomena of our fallen state where we can't actually live the dream of life and actually be it. You see, if you go back to the analogy that I used earlier, imagine a God, we're talking a linear analogy, just to explain the undefined, the non-linear truth. You imagine there's God with a dream of life, dreaming it. And the only way that dream of life can come alive is when God moved its life inside the dream of life to breathe its life, to give its life to everything in the dream of life that God is holding in its dreams, all its thoughts. And there is God. In doing so, there is God standing as a man on the land, because God came as man on the land, amongst the dream that God is holding, right? Now, there was no other God before God. There was no holy book to tell God about any of this. And there was no psychiatrists and counseling and experts to explain anything about God, about God's experience. God's is living the experience, right? So we as man is that God. And each man created as a child, when we create children, they're supposed to appear as God on earth, right? With no one inside their heads, with the full power of God, creating everything that God created and gifted to God, to God, to God, to God, to man, to man, to man, to man, to child, to child, to child, to child. You see, so it doesn't happen because children now are conceived inside scripts, vast depths of scripts where women have been defined to what a woman is and what a man is. And then from that, hospitals and sonar and all kinds of things we do to women and to babies inside wombs and all the explanations. We have gone so far into this Frankenstein world of experimenting and socializing, or social engineering. It takes a lot of discernment to calm all that conversation down. Just shut it all down in the head and just sense and become that God standing on the earth as the man, just as God created it, right? Remember, this is a linear analogy, but the truth of that is what we're all gifted with. And because there's no time or space, there's no beginning or end, because there never was a beginning to life, and there never will be an end to life, we connect with what we're already been gifted with, the legacy, the inheritance of that life. So it's that where we come to, and it's only when you choose to use your free will, where you no longer have a broken will, meaning you don't let the scripts influence you in your head, regardless where and how far you go inside those scripts, where you choose to return to being God, to be a man fully responsible for everything you think, feel, and do. It's there where the true experience happens. And in that good heart, now, when God created, again, linear analogy, created the dream of life, and the good heart of the God came with its breath into everything of the dream of life. All the virtues of the good heart, all the virtues of unconditional love, of co-creation, of do no harm, of nurturing, support, honesty, sincerity, truth, full disclosure, all the things that never mislead, deceive, cheat, anything. Nothing is denied of nature. Nothing is withheld. So it's there, inspired by the good heart of God, that we are the sons of God, that we are the true children of God. And when we do that, there is not a single script in our head that's come from another man inside our head. So though God created everything, it really is man to man to man to man who created the songs of the trees, the songs of the mountains, the songs of the rainbows, the songs of the birds, the life of everything, because it is our ancestors as God who created everything and gifted us that here and now. And we are the only ones here as God to carry on with the follow through of that, if we remember and wake up. If we don't, the only follow through are the scripts of the storytelling of outer space and minerals, of everything explained to us. And not a single dream, not a single thought is in our head, meaning we are just an empty vessel now. We're just an idea that was created, but there's no God inside it because it was hijacked by another man who wants to act as our God and tell us what this vessel is. and how this vessel should feel and think and act and perform. So the uniqueness and originality has been denied. That sacredness has been rejected and must be desecrated. And the desecration is the system. And the ongoing follow through of that desecration is upholding everything of the system with all its bullshit, all its script storytelling and lies and everything else that comes with it. We're talking about university now. Doesn't matter what career course you do in it. You're in the lie that was defined. That's why I say that so many people go to university who, after all of 20 plus years of brainwashing from school, preschool, right through even earlier preschool, the books have been with fairy tales. We're reading stories to our kids. And we practice memorizing the scripts and recalling the cult of the hoops of the cults, jumping. So we grow up and then we eventually go to university and we come out with these degrees as astronomers and biologists and all that. And we're looking through telescopes and microscopes, and not a single thought in our head is coming from direct sensory experience. It's coming from a history in our head that we're recalling over and over again, and we're adding to it, adding our opinions to it, it's adding our assumptions to it, adding our theories to it. And so the depth of the fall into the scripts goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and the next generations following through fall even deeper and deeper, trying to come out to get out of this matrix, and we can't get out of it. So look, the bottom line is this: you are God. The buck stops with you. This man is God. The buck stops with this man. I'm responsible not to lie to you. So why would I want to kidnap you, make you my prisoner, by dragging you into a social engineering dream world that I've manufactured for you to perform inside it as my slave, and have your head spinning all your life, where you are not allowed to host the truth of your real life through your senses? Just completely shut it all down. So you are a drone, a robot, a slave of my doing, of my beck and call. That's what the Freemasons are doing to everybody. That's all that's happening. So we've got to get to the bottom. Stop believing the lie. Stop trusting what has been defined to us. Start connecting using senses. And if you do, you are opening up the good heart. And the more you connect with the senses, the more the good heart is expanding. And the more the big picture grows of the truth of your true life, right, the big one, the more the presence of your godliness is present. And like that, you are already that freedom. You're already that abundance. You're already that truth. You're already that life. And you're gifting it and sharing it to your children and to others. You see, there's no fences anymore. We're not making land title deeds with lots and plots and cutting and dividing it up into little pixelations of ethnicity and culture, and breaking it all down and breaking men and women down into all kinds of controlled opposition or useful subjugation slaves, where we extort their fruits of labor, where we siphon the follow through, what we want from them, because we can't be it and live it as who we really are. That's where it all starts and ends there. Meaning, going back to the previous video we did doing with you, is that my responsibility is I'm not going to want to use and abuse you in a kingdom that we're creating together. My responsibility is to be that God that creates the abundance, and everything I do is created for the greater good of everyone around me. And because I'm conscious out of the good heart, and you're conscious out of the good heart, we would never want to crowd into each other and force each other to comply and acquiesce to you're only allowed to have half an acre. You're only allowed to be there. You're only allowed to do this and that. And we start playing out these rules, regulations, and conditions and all that amongst each other. You see, when we do it from our true consciousness, it's undefined. It's already happening. We would never think a script in our head that would play out these boxes of pixelations of the lie, where we compartmentalize and subjugate each other and force conditions on our kids, and raise them up in this madness, this junkyard of garbage, the system, the civilization of progress and all that. if you comprehend what I'm saying, is that when you arrive of your doing, where you no longer have a broken will and you don't default to the scripts anymore, and you are determined to create the dream of life now, working with seeds, with plants, working with the land, working with the soil, working with living things, and you nurture and care for it without placing boundaries on it, without placing anything else on it. You are God entering the dream of your life, gifted the legacy of the original man who created it all. An original man that never began. There was never a beginning to any of this. It's always existed. And you'll see it in all the great tribes, the memories of their ancestors, of the songs they created, the mountains and the rivers and the valleys, because we are the creator. We are just asleep. We are amnesitized, comatose from the true remembrance of what was gifted to all of us. It's still there. It's still there. The memory of the truth of who we are is all around us. We just need to reawaken. And in the experience, and only in the experience of living as God, as earth, as nature, as man, as the original man, as the unique original man, the sacred man, do you reconnect with dreaming and watching a bird that you dreamt, watch it just fly out of your hand that you've created. Because there's the power is with all of us. I remember as a little kid, somehow a little chicken, I'll finish this, a little chicken ended in a toilet. Mum was raising chickens. I grew up a lot of animals, within my painful life. And I remember I went to the toilet, the outside toilet, and there was a little chick that got in there and drowned in the toilet. And I put my hand in, grabbed the little chick and took it out. And whatever happened to me, it was cold. And I remember holding it like this in my hand, and I was holding it like this. And I remember when I look back on it now, I had no doubt, no uncertainty about anything. And after a few minutes, I just felt this in my hand. Jumped out of my hand, went back on the ground and went and joined the chicks. Now, it happened. I'm not claiming exclusivity or privilege over that experience. It's just that good heart, gifted, put the breath of life back in. I think I might have even been doing this. I might have even been doing that. I can't remember. I was quite young, about 7 or 8 or something, Now, I'm sure there are many of us out there who have had amazing experiences like this, little things. They're just little windows breaking through the facade of the matrix of all the scripting spinning in our heads of our true power. You see, we're the only ones creating slavery. We're the only ones creating dependency on each other. We're the only ones creating everything that's going wrong. And we're the ones creating all the questions, all the arguments, we're creating all the debates, we're creating everything, all the controversies. We're the ones creating everything to our experience. We're the ones creating it. There's no one else creating it. It's just a man manipulating, or a man stirring, or a man contemplating, asking questions. It's just a man. Everything to our experiences is man. We're it. So we are co-creators or co-gods, full responsibility of the dream of life. And when we reconnect through our senses, that true consciousness is beyond the surface of our skin. We're no longer defined. We're beyond all that. So we don't even think about fear and doubt and uncertainty and worries about tomorrow. And I'll tell you something else. We are the weather. We create the weather we experience collectively. And when we awaken and stop doing this, we change the whole climate to meet the dream of life we hold. While we hold the scripts with all the emotions that came out of ritual sacrifice that's embedded in the English language and other alphabets, we keep recalling out anger and rage and loneliness and despair and jealousy and covetousness and emptiness and everything else that goes on. We are creating the climate of that, and we're calling it to come to us. And it comes to us as thunderstorms and hail and snow and coldness and extreme conditions, floods, because they are the co-creation of our union of the lie that we breathe life into. So when we stop doing that and stop arguing over freedom and start being it, living it, we start recreating a paradise from the good heart. And then we don't experience all this other shit going on in the climate and the weather. We don't have to go and watch the internet to see the weather forecast, because we know it's going to be, because the follow through is our good heart. And we'll actually recreate a temperate climate which actually honors the uniqueness, originality of all of life, because that's what the temperate climate is. It's a sacredness of the big picture where everything is honored and respected, from the tiniest of the tiniest of the tiniest to the greatest things. And we are that. Why would you want to desecrate that?
So we stop to die the moment we stop living the lie.
Yeah, we stop falling into the lie. That's where we die.
Yeah. That's it. And is the fact that we are such in a big lie collectively is also, like I said before, the fact that we are so many beings here and we can trust each other. Like, I don't know who to trust here, really. But if I could trust someone outside of maybe myself, would the lie outside of ourselves dissolve?
Because you say so. You willed it that way. You used your free will. So, when I mentioned in the previous video, you've got to have a good bullshit detector, because while we're still recreating our wings and opening up our wings so we can learn to start practicing to fly as a real man, as that analogy, you've got to watch the malevolence of others who try to get inside your head or inside your wife's head or inside your kids' heads to manipulate, undermine that. And if there's any doubt or uncertainty or confusion or distrust, any emotion still lingering in your makeup that you're still resonating with, it will expand, because you allow it to expand, because you're starting to listen to it again. You're focusing on the tiny details of that black. You're causing the black to expand more and more. And the occultists will come in and stir it to get you to expand it more. So this is why, look, 99% of all people are not murderers. They don't go and break and enter. Very few people really do. The only ones who really do it is a small, tiny few. And some of those get got at, and they get caught out and sold out inside the Freemasonic world by offering them, access to orgies and women and money and everything they need. And these lackeys get sent in to create break and enter, to create disturbance in the community and play it out. And then these people control the media, play it out in the media to create these hostile environments at the local level, wherever we all are, regardless how big the global problem may be, it's still operating at the local level. So you've got to realize that most of the people around us are not rotten. Most of the people are not rotten. They're just experiencing the distrust, the uncertainty, the confusion, and they have been trained to think for themselves at the cost of everything around them, because that's how it's been designed. That's how the manufacturing of this matrix was planned from inception. So if you get that, there's no need to distrust. The more that you surrender and set the example and have a good bullshit detector to rat out those intelligence operatives, because when you do this kind of work, you have to accept that this comes with the territory of these people, because this is the greatest threat. Because you've got to remember, the very point of arrival of these UFOs on the lands where these people came as missionaries, signers, botanists, surveyors, admirals, generals, whatever, and then merged into the tribal ways of life, whether they did it through outright war invasion from the beginning, or whether they did it through very cunning guile methods. That act to control and dominate the thinking of the children is the greatest threat they still have today, because this is the power that we're breaking away from right now. So that act that they did then is still in place today. And that's what we call the Pax Romanus. It's just a peace treaty. A peace treaty where the occupiers control the occupied, where the slave masters control the slaves, in an agreement, a unilateral agreement. This one's going to be global unilateral agreement, where we are still subjected to their authority. And they're going to determine a one world this and a one world that. And it's going to sound wonderful and rosy, but it will not be. See, so we have to go full circle in our brainwashing to realize, these people want to go full circle to bring back a generation back to that point when they first appeared amongst their ancestors, but with the deception in place to maintain the authority, so that we are no longer truly gods of our lives. We are just a diluted version in a fake matrix of consciousness that was explained to us and emotionally engineered and socially engineered, right? And that's why you're seeing it now with iPods everywhere and computers everywhere and young kids running around with, and their brains are just, man, they're just gone, and they're manipulating with chemicals and HARP and chemtrails and that to create a new kind of man that meets that full circle reproduction, where the whole of Earth is just a man on the land, a subject who really believes they're free, and make themselves the perfect slave, because anyone who believes they're free in those conditions are the greatest slaves of all, because there's no resistance. They're pure willing slaves, willingly doing anything for these.
And many beings think they are free. They think that when they go buy a house, they really buy it, or when they buy a car, they buy it, but nothing belongs to you really. So we're all under this big illusion that we create a life for ourselves and this and that, but we're also dependent on each other, on what this guy makes, or his farm, or the car maker, or so, it is what it is.
So Kindom is this Kindom with its mudroom, and explain Kindom without the G, and the mudroom is, okay, we're all fucked up. No one can be brought up in the system and not be damaged. We are all damaged. But because we have free will, we have the ability to step outside of all of that. We can get outside of it with our free will. We are unlimited in our capacity. So though the vessel has been harmed, again, I talk through this man's experience. This vessel has been severely sexually abused as a little kid. This man's been physically belted and bashed and terrible things. There have been many things that this child went through. And the thing is that in spite of the intentions of others, whose imprints still resonate in the body as the pain, as the trauma, as the suffering, right? That could be there for the rest of this vessel's life before it's laid to rest again. The man's consciousness, the true man, can step outside of all of it, not in fantasy, not as an escape from reality, but simply can hold dreams more beautiful, more magnificent, where the soul can embody the vessel. And again, that was the great message of the great man on the cross. When they put the spirit in, when they nailed him to the cross and they put the crown, this is the image, and they say, you are our slaves. We're breaking you all down. You are all our subjects. And he's looking down on all of them and saying, don't you love life anymore? Don't you want to have a soul? Can't you see you are all the ones who are dying? None of you are living. You're all dead. That's why you're attacking this vessel and want to crucify and torture, because you don't know who you are anymore. You don't know what the good heart is. You've completely fallen from it all. And saying to them, you can all return, not as a savior, but to inspire them to return, to have a life, a real life, so they don't die, especially when the vessel is deceased. You see, so it's in that. That's why the symbols of the Christians in the Colosseums, that they weren't frightened anymore of the lions and all that, because they realized their life was more. It was much bigger than the vessel, because they were holding the whole dream of life. And it was alive, it was real, and living, and still is for them. And they are the stars that shine. They're the celestial bodies you're looking at, the clusters of all the lights of life, holding the dream of life that we are part of, that they gifted to us. This all of this is our ancestors all amongst us still now in this song of life that they've created, undefined. So when you see that amazing, horrific image of what they call Jesus on the cross, he's not the one dying, though his body was butchered. I mean, totally butchered. You see, he was more than his body. He was alive. And when we wake up like this, it doesn't matter what they do. It's what we do. And in that power, with the good heart, we don't covet land anymore. We already got everything we need. And we just get busy every day co-creating and expanding the dream of life. We don't worry about distances and spaces and lots and plots and all that. We just create. And when we're conscious like that, working with the good heart, we would never covet any good spots because we know it's for everyone to enjoy. We take the worst spots and transform them to little tiny paradises with everyone else trading little hubs of paradises, right? I mean, and as an example of how we're transitioning this madness is that right now I'm in a camper trailer. Now, this is a system thing. And I have been saying to people, use the system to get out of the system, but do it in a way where the baton of the system is not passed on to the next generation. Now, I've got kids that are now 22 down to 13 so it's challenging to work with my kids who have got all this stuff going in their heads and they're still working their way through it all. And they are of their own free will. They're questioning a lot of things now. But the thing is that I use this camper trailer and I'm creating an 100% off-grid rig. So I'm putting in a lithium battery system in. Just bear with me. I'm going to explain this off-grid thing to explain to you what we're doing within the power, what we can do. So we have this off-grid rig, which cost about 20 grand. We're putting in a lithium battery bank with 4 lithium batteries underneath this camper trailer. We're putting in a 6,000 watt pure sine wave inverter connected to this battery bank. We have these 2 powerful solar controllers. I won't go all the brand name, but I can put them in the about section maybe, or in another post we'll put it up. And these 2 solar controllers will have 3 powerful EFTE solar panels connected to each solar controller. Now, these 2 solar controllers, driven by these high 300 watt EFT solar panels, are feeding into a bus, and the bus links to the battery bank. So I can have 24/7 solar power generated in those first 4, 5, 6 hours of the good parts of the day to make sure that we can still run a washing machine, because we're not prepared to go all the way at this stage because there's quite a lot of us involved. So we can have a washing machine that runs at 2200 watts max, even though we do cold washes. We have a few other things. We have a water heater boiler that holds water for us for up to 5 liters, and that runs about 920 watt. So we've got a 6,000 watt heavy duty pure sine wave inverter built for mining companies, so it can handle anything up to 6,000 watts. So computers, audio equipment, I can go on and on. Now, that I can plug in 240 volt into that inverter that's taking it from 12 volts. So the 12 volt battery bank will feed me 240 back. So I can have this whole rig set up 100% firewood, LPG, petrol and diesel, and 12 volt solar, if I got it all right. Now, when this is working, we're operating on half an acre on someone else's property where we're building a garden for them, and the arrangement we have rent free. So we're saving 30, 40,000 a year. So Hannah and Fiona and the money they earn and the gifts coming in from supporters allows me to funnel all this money into this 100% off-grid rig to build it and make it work and test it here on this rent-free environment in a backyard in a rural area, in a suburb, while we're building a garden for these people, right? Because we're staying on a property with a woman who's told she could die any moment by doctors. And she found us and tracked us down, and we said, okay, fine. We got talking. We had a common interest. So here we are. Now, the point of mentioning all this is because the bigger dream of life is Kindom. We need to make a transition to Kindom. And we have to be seen to be doing it now, living the dream in stages. So I've created this off-grid rig with all the experience that I've now developed in the last year and a half, so that I can take my whole family, or those of my family who want to come, and others who want to get involved and move this onto any piece of land with no infrastructure, no system infrastructure, nothing. And we can have everything we need, living a bit frugally or more. We've got, for an example, I've got a 21-litre Dux condensing hot water system with antifreeze. Okay, this is all system stuff. That thing can pump out showers for 20 or 30 people, one after the other. Endless, as long as we can set up the water. So I've got 12-volt water pumps, 12-volt temporary little reserve tanks, right? And we're buying a ramp pump, so the ramp pump can actually generate its own power from water coming down a stream. Long story cut short, and the ramp pump doesn't need 12-volt electricity, doesn't need solar, need nothing. It just generates and pumps, and you can pump it up 200, 300, 400 meters up to wherever we are. And then gravity feed the water in this hub, right? So we can move this onto any piece of land, anywhere, using the system to create the beginning of a kingdom, knowing we have to walk away from all of this down the line, knowing that this must all be eventually buried and recycled, right? So instead of being that Spartan and dragging our bodies into a primitive or, a landscape where there's no system infrastructure, we've created something that allows us to transition, because the demands on our waking life, the pressures on our waking life, with so much we've got to be doing, it gets very hard, especially on women. If women, and men too, but it happens a lot with women. And I've always thought about, well, I've got to make sure the women are happy. So I've got to make sure Fiona and others are happy. So washing machine, we have I'm not joking, I'm serious. But as we learn to simplify our lives in practicing and doing it, we can let it go. We can let that go and this go. So we've got a 80-litre LPG oven with 4 burners on top, portable. The washing machine is portable. The chef LPG oven is portable, right? And we've got a still, the German manufacturer, SDIHL, we've got a 22C chainsaw, battery-driven lithium battery, which is probably the best in the world. Now, all this money is coming in from gifts from everywhere, because what Fiona gives this man and what Hannah, all that they give to this dream this man's holding. So even though we came out of Roycross and he spent all that, what happened back when they dismantled that garden and all that, that garden's now in storage, not lost. And as long as this man does not give up, regardless what these Freemasons throw at you, as long as this man doesn't give up and holds that dream, everything everyone's done for this dream since day one still lives in the dream this man's holding. So there's no holes in the bucket. So all that effort is still benefiting. Even if those people had emotional breakdowns and fell apart and they've come and gone, doesn't matter. As long as I'm holding it and I'm responsible for the bigger picture of the dream, it lives, because I'm living it. I'm doing it right now. And I'm fucked up. I'm a fat Greek wog, and if a fat Greek wog can do it, anyone can bloody do this. If you're willing to use your willpower and say no to a lot of these influences and start making living action things here and now and just get on with it. So we've got garden experience. We know how to create food forests now. We've learned that. Other people, I know when we move in land, people are going to want to flock and get involved. So we've got to have bullshit detectors. We have to suss out some of these people. We've got to put them into a working environment in a mudroom for help them to work out their shit so they don't play it out, the ego, with everyone else. So we've got to make sure how we start in those early stages is controlled, not that we are control freaks, just that we don't want to diminish all our energy wasted on people's dramas when we're so busy having to be creative, making food for us and creating shelter, natural things, and learning how to cut down on the doing harm and doing harm. So when you talk about what you want to do, it comes down to this, right? This is the attitude. Are you willing to take the responsibility on? Are you willing to use the system to get out of it, but don't pass it on to the next generation and instill that into everyone else around us, right? So I can't tell you, oh, trust me, I'm the guy. I'm not going to ever say that. But these videos make it clear. You know where I stand, where I'm coming from, what I'm doing. I don't live for the system. I have no interest in any glory. I don't want to be remembered, to be honest. I refuse to live it and support it anymore. So this is my way within what I can do. And the more I'm living it. So here we are. Look, another thing to explain how this works. I was in the middle of a huge fraud of attacks from the Australian Tax Department and then from Macquarie Bank. I didn't know at the time it was coordinated, how these Freemasons work behind the scenes. And without going through all of this, I'm not going to explain all this here, but I could see that everything that I'd worked for, where I became in the system a millionaire, not that I already was, that meant nothing because I wasn't really anything great about millionaire, nothing of that. I just had a house, had business, had cash flow. Today it'd be like 10,000 a week coming in your pocket. We had a home and we had another home we're about to buy, and all these things were happening for us. And that all this was being threatened and to be taken and stolen from us. And I could see I'm going to be left with nothing. And all my 20 years, all that followed through was going to be taken. And something happened in amongst all the shit going down between 2005, 2007. I had a series of epiphanies, right? And that's in some of my earlier videos. People can go and find out about those experiences that I had. Ones I even put up last year. These things were to this man's experience. Now, I made a decision in the waking up. I don't want to live like this anymore, because I got to see I was the problem. It wasn't Macquarie Bank. It wasn't the Australian Tax Department. It was me living the lie and supporting the lie and allowing the lie to play out as the lie that I'm living in my life. So I'm suffering the lie that I'm living for. I got to see the buck stops with me. I have to change. And if I don't change my attitude, nothing changes. So I said, fuck it all. I'm pulling out of the system. And I worked it out that I'm not going to write to anyone in there to tell me, please, sir, I don't want your driver's license anymore. I don't want your birth certificate. I don't want your bank account. I never wrote to anyone about anything, about no matter what, because I got to realize I'm the authority. I'm the power. They're not my life. So I wrote to no one about anything. I just stopped using the driver's license, stopped using the birth registry, stopped using their bank accounts and credit cards and their Medicare and their government handouts and Centrelink money. I just dropped it all gradually over a period of 6 months to 8 months, right? And so they would fade away. Now, we're talking 2006 here, roughly. So while I've been doing that, I had a bigger dream that made me do it. I'm going to inspire people to start gifting life to the dream that this man's holding. Now, I had no love for life insights. I had nothing then. I just decided I'm going to do it. I want to do something from my heart. I had no book to tell me how it's going to navigate for me. I have to follow these 10 steps and you're going to achieve all these wonderful things for you. Nothing. I couldn't go to another man who could explain anything to me because there was nothing anywhere. I just did it. Just did it. Using free will. And that's how I started my business. I had no background in office automation. I just did it. When I got involved in music, I didn't have anything. I just did it. I couldn't sing in it. I just did it. I still can't sing. I'm not no bloody singer. I'm shit. But I don't care. But I don't compare myself. What matters is what I love doing. And you just do it. So I'm used to doing things in spite of everyone around telling me that you can't. So here I am with the Love for Life dream, with all the insights being created, a huge body of insight work, simplifying it down into the most idiot-friendly format possible to explain what's become of us. But in doing that, it gave this man direction, a natural direction to navigate out of the mess. So not only did I create a way out with a big picture, I'm holding such a big picture, and I can share the wisdom as a wisdom keeper with others who want to hear and listen to this wisdom, right? So if this man can do it in a vessel that's been severely damaged with a lot of physical issues, not that I'm not crippled to it. I'm just saying these things have been done to this vessel. If this man can do it, anybody can do it. Anyone. And it means that every child creator already has it gifted in them. It's built in. And we can help it inspired to bring forth if we don't interfere and meddle with what goes in their heads. Right?
It's built in, but it's sometimes the script is so heavy that it's going to take over your whole life. Like you're going to go through your whole life without never ever realizing that there is a dream that we have to grasp. Like you say, the dream of life, or call it another kind of thing. But sometimes we're so far away from that dream of life that we are in the script, and we even deny the dream of life for the script. So it gets very, very heavy on someone. That when I say that is, take astronomers or anybody studying the star in the sky. You really don't pay attention when you look through your telescope or something, because you haven't noticed that they're not what you've been told.
Yeah, it's
Like
true.
I've seen it the first time I looked. So because I didn't have that script in my head, but someone with a script in their head will look at the stars and see, not react, or because it's not what we've been told. So
It's just like Superman. Superman's not in front of us ever, but we can like us talk about, like our brains are like a film projector. We can get the animation of Superman scripted and pass it through the lens of our projector, and so that the light of our life can illuminate Superman in a 3D situation. Watch little kids running around as Superman, or we run around as Superman, but none of it's here. It's actually not even happening. It's just an illusion of through imagining, with life energy directed into these scripts of storytelling. So the point is, even time and space is so ingrained in us, and we think, oh, how long before people wake up? I don't think like this anymore. How long is it going to take? I don't even think about any of that anymore. I don't give it any credence at all, because when we step outside of it, we are not ruled by time and space. So there are no conditions that we place on anything anymore, which frees up things to happen as much as the free will of whatever man is being affected by those inspirations of that man. So people come to the Love for Life Insights can be deeply inspired, but it's up to them how much they're prepared to get outside their broken will, where all the definitions are keeping their real free will held back. So don't worry about point A to point B, how long people are going to wake up. I don't think about that anymore. I just say, I'm just going to live the dream and do it as powerfully as I can do it, and allow that sun to shine and create a hub, like the sun, like every ray coming out, like imagine the sun and every ray is coming out of the sun. Each one's like a hub. So this off-grid rig is a hub, is the heart of the dream, for example. And each one is like a tent, or this or that, whatever we've created. And we've created this method of dreaming to break away from the system, where we are providing community for each other, not in fear, but just providing a way of life. We don't want to live like this shit and scum anymore and abusing. Everyone involved is just busy in their creativity, creating life, and not harboring it, not owning it, knowing that the consciousness of all of us would never want to deny that sacred space of everyone, knowing that no one wants to go and fight over the best views and the best locations and all that. We get past all this shit, right? Because I still reckon that most of us will end up as wandering tribes again, nomads, enjoying life, living in the moment of eternal life, experiencing our ancestors dreaming amongst everything that we're experiencing. And the climate's changed because we've changed. In the meantime, everyone else who don't will die in the lie of this climatic event that they've dreamt for, this end times, which kills them all. They don't get it. They don't
and
get
the
it.
worst is they don't even know. We don't even know we're in a lie. That's the worst. It's so deep. It's
That's why we have to create a living example
yeah, exactly.
of a man on the land. We are a man on the land living without the lie ruling us. And those who want to experience it directly can document it through video, from film, can make it into film, whatever they want to do. But those who want to come and visit can. So that's why we want to create one, because between Newcastle and the south coast, Wollongong and all that, and to where we are in the Southern Highlands, you can reaching, or even Canberra, you're reaching over 6 million people. Now, if 1% of that got affected over a period of 5-10 years through word of mouth, or even if 1/10%, it will just mushroom. It just, you see. So I don't think in terms of percentages. I just look at it as long as we create the light and live that dream, living the dream, then those lost in the darkness of their lives have the light to return to if they want to return and wake up. So we have the responsibility to hold that light and be that light and live it. So when the Roycross disasters happen and all kinds of stuff, which we could talk about in another video, what we went through at East Bowral, where all that garden was created and used for propaganda, and how the people behind it manipulated the owners of these two investment properties, we were in one of them, telling us that they're under massive pressure, they had to sell the two properties, we had to get out of there, right? Only to re-rent the properties after we removed all those tonnage of soil in the garden. We knew, look, I knew all this was, right? I knew from the beginning all this was contrived, predetermined. They just don't want us out there. They want me with my mouth doing the propaganda work and giving away food for free with others while working for all that shit, because their greatest threat is people like this man who's fucked up in a body but capable of doing amazing stuff and not letting the fucked upness stop it. So I know where the line is drawn, where the shit ends, right, and the real power begins. So you got to know that. You got to know only during this transition period, which is the mudroom or the bridge we build, where we walk across and we all build the bridge out of the system, using the system to build that bridge. And when we arrive back in Kindom, we've collapsed the bridge, and everything of the system we brought with us gets buried with it. And now we're back to those tribes, how things were before the system, before the scripts in our heads, right? And that's how we do it. And, you know, so when we really wake up, there is no death. So we don't care if they've got 1 million men armies, whether they've got the latest jet planes, whether they've got the latest technologies coming through the water of our breath. It doesn't matter what they got. When you wake up, it doesn't affect you. They can come after you and crucify and do whatever they like to you. It will not kill you. If you know who you are, you don't die. They die. And they've done this once before, and all the remains across Earth all went at one time. And that's why you see all the remains of all the ancient civilization everywhere. It all went one time. Forget their carbon dating and all their evolution shit and this, I think I told you about this. You know, one of the, I think I did. One of the, imagine it's today, right? And then they said Australia, the same shit happened, and then they come up with their bullshit history and say Australia was 10,000 BC and America was 5,000 AD and this and that, and you know, and every country that we know existed here and now are sort of displaced across the matrix of an illusion of time through that history they manufacture, right? That's what they did with ancient history. It all went at the same time. It only happened recently. It wasn't that long ago. Right? I don't know whether it was 200, 300, or 400 years ago, or whether it was 1200 now, but I know it was very recent where all this shit was done, and it all wiped themselves out, because when you live that lie, there is nowhere to go to but extinction from the living dream of life, because we all are of the living dream of life. We're gifted with it. You can never escape it, regardless how phantasmic the free will is used to come up with illusions of grandeur, right, of thinking we've got afterlives and dimensions and levels and all that. Let me tell you, they all die. And what happens, and I know this don't believe what I'm telling, but I know this to be true. When we do no longer remember them, there is no name to remember, no time or references to remember, no books and all that. Everything is gone, and its imprint has forever gone. And it can happen that fast, that quick. So everyone who lives that lie will go down with it, regardless how arrogant they are. I've met a lot of Freemasons who are so calm and smart. They've got a strong intellect, and they say, what a beautiful day, what a wonderful day. And I know these are politicians or ex-politicians. I know them. I know how they talk. But these people are the beneficiaries of this lie, and they act as if they're one of us. They're good people, but they're not. They're sold out. All these people will die too if they don't wake up and stop doing it. Stop manipulating other people. Stop putting up the farce of the scam, right? So don't be frightened.
Sir, thank you very much, but we're already past our time. I have to leave like very, very soon. So thanks very much, but we'll extend our thoughts again. It went fast tonight, already an hour and 5 minutes.
Thanks.
We'll extend our thoughts again next Sunday again. I'll be here with you, and we'll have something great to talk about for sure. So thanks everyone. I noticed now you are 6 watching live on YouTube. So I'll see you again with Arthur next Sunday, same time, around 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Okay. Bye everyone.
Montreal time, because you're in Australia. For you, it's the next day. So thank you very much, Arthur.
Pleasure. Bye.
And the unnatural. Don't fight for slavery. God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
spades and shovels and the buckets are all lined up. standing fighting on the toys of richest famous farmers being shot. Stop blowing all the glowing and telling there's a running hard fortune skills and outcomes. You're scaling empty mountains, faking footsteps, faking handholds. You big man giant, you're driving truckloads of emotion, compelling you to dance to the sandpit tunes. Rulers bending you to orders, binding you with whispers, teaching you to dream their dreaming, kindly putting up the fences, handing out the centaurs, or you know to rule the world with. You're grabbing toys to make a hit, you're trading smiles with avarice, you're thinking that you worked it out. You're blind to those who guide your way, your rosy glasses hold this way, your sandpit thinking pulls you down. All your might and all your armies, with all your 666 hand signals, and your second twisted rituals of living giant. And you think you've got the answers, but all you got is dead delusion. You're just stuck inside this no return vortex giant. You're the chosen ones of nothing, and you're the golden goose of folly. All the power you claim just doesn't exist. Giant, you big man giant, you're toweling giants. You big man giant, you're just a clown. You big man giant, you're toweling giants. You big man giant, you're just a clown. The bird has flown.